Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambam Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Shri Chinmaya Yatishasya Gurum Vande Tapovanam Tamahimavad Vibhutim Vai Jnana Vairagya Rupinam Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vitvaram Satgurum Brahma Vitvaram. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shrunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhirya Jatraha Sthirairangai Stuštuvagam Sastanubhihi Vyashema Devahitai Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vridhashtravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarksho arishtanemihi Swasti no brihaspatir dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Welcome back after a long summer break. Pipalada Rishi is the guru and six students approach him, and they are already very advanced students, but they want the ultimate knowledge. And so Rishi tells them, stay here with Brahmacharya, Tapas, and Shraddha. These are the three very important things for knowledge. First is self-control, then austerity, and then Shraddha in the Guru. And he says you need to have all three. And he says after 1 year, if we know the answer, we will tell you. And so they, of course, have full faith in the Rishi. They stay for 1 year and they ask the three questions. So three questions we have already done. I'll summarize them. I'll spend some time today in summarizing and only do two mantras of the query number 4. So first question is, Kuta ima praja prajayanta iti. So the student asks the teacher, from where has this praja come? That means, what is this creation? Praja does not only mean live beings, but how did this whole creation come? Kuta, from where? The Rishi knows that there is no creation. Creation is non-existent. It is an illusion. But because the student is asking from that level, that means he thinks this creation is real. So we can see the 6 students also have different levels of clarity. So he thinks this creation is real and somebody had to have created it. And we'll see in subsequent mantras how Rishi will prove that this creation is illusion, which we have seen in detail in Mandukya and in other Upanishads. So the Rishi says, Prajapati did tapas. Tapas here means had intense contemplation, and he created prana and rai. Rai is matter, not only gross matter, but also subtle matter, mind, intellect, etc. And prana is the sentient principle. It's not only energy, it is the sentient principle. And he said the same can be represented by the sun and the moon. So Prajapati himself became the sun and the moon. The moon represents Rai or matter, which is the path of sense pleasures, because most sense pleasures occur at night, or drinking, gambling, all of those. And the sun represents knowledge, illumination. And in the first query, we see very beautiful glorification of the sun, how the sun illumines everything. Sun is all, all is the supreme God manifesting and all that. And so the glory of the sun was mentioned, and then mentioned about the moon. And then he said that the same also become the Samvatsara. Samvatsara means the year. As we know, the Hindu calendar year is divided into Dakshinayana and Uttarayana. Uttarayana is roughly from January 14 to July, and then Dakshinayana is from July to December. So as the sun moves into the northern hemisphere, it is Uttarayana. When it moves into the southern hemisphere, it is Dakshinayana. And he says both of them also are, Prajapati himself became the year, he became and those who die in Dakshinayana do not return, and those who die in Uttarayana do return. So what it means is, does not mean that if you die in August or September or October, you are condemned. What it means is those who are on the path of knowledge of the sun, they do not return. Those who are on the path of the moon, the path of sense pleasures, even they may be doing good deeds, rituals, but if they are practicing sense pleasures and they are doing good deeds to go to heaven, they will return. And then he also said that the month is also Prajapati, Shukla and Krishna Paksha. Krishna Paksha is the bright fortnight when the moon is increasing, and Krishna is the dark fortnight, and Shukla is the bright fortnight. When the moon is increasing is Shukla Paksha. When the moon is waning, it is Krishna Paksha, and that is also Prajapati. And then he said in the day also Aho and Ratri. So they are also Prajapati. So he has divided creation by the total creation, by the year, by the month, and by the day. And then he says Annam was created. Prajapati himself became Annam. And that's how this whole creation happened. So that is his answer to the first student. Then the second student asks a very beautiful question. He says, what are the factors that enliven and illumine this body? So see, the questions are becoming subtler. First is about the gross creation. Then what are the factors that enliven and illumine this body, which is called Vidharayante, Hi Prakashayante, that which enlivens and that which illumines. And out of them, which one is Varishtha? Which one is the most important, which is the highest? So the teacher answers there are 19 factors, 5 elements, 5 sense organs, 5 organs of action. So that becomes 15. And then Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. So the mind, intellect, ego, and memory. So these 19 factors were started fighting. And he tells the story that one time they were fighting and the eye said, without me, the body cannot see. The ear said, without me, they cannot hear. Hands, legs, all of them started fighting that who are out of the 19, the most important. But Prana says, Moham apadya, give up all this moha, I am the supreme. And they didn't believe him. They said, how can Prana be the supreme? So Prana says, okay. So Prana decided to leave, just as when a queen bee leaves, all the other bees follow her. So here, when Prana started leaving, all the other 19 started choking and they also had to leave. So they said, wait, please don't go. Motkrami, ma utkrami, do not go. You are the supreme. And so the rest of the second query is the glory of Prana, is the stuti of Prana. You are the sun, you are the supreme being, you are the Deva, you are the illumining factor, you are the child in the mother's womb. That means all life, Prana, you are, and you are like the spokes in the wheel, like in the wheel where we have spokes and then we have the hub. So you are the hub and we are all spokes and we revolve around you, just as Bhagwan is the hub of this creation and we are all spokes. and we all revolve around that. So they do the stuti of prana and they say all life is because of you. If you leave, then we will not be able to exist. So that was the second query of the student. The third query is subtler still, where the student asks the teacher, how does prana, how first of all, how did prana come into being? How was prana created? Then how does it enter the body? Then how does it divide? How does it sustain itself? What causes prana to leave? How does it leave? And what sustains the outer world and the inner world? So 6-pointed question was asked. And the teacher is very happy with all of these questions. He praises the students. And he said the prana is like the shadow. So that, as we have talked before, this whole universe can be, you can, one is say snake and rope, but here the example is the light and shadow. Shadow depends on light. Shadow is temporary. Light in that example is, the main source. And shadow can appear and disappear, but the light of the Lord remains, the light of consciousness. And then the shadow is not real. It is an appearance. So he says prana is like the shadow. And how does it enter? It enters through the mind. That's why they call it as chit chaya, or reflection of consciousness. That is how life enters into our being. And then how does it divide? So the guru gives an example of the king. Just as the king appoints officers in different villages and different towns and says, you are in charge of this town and this village, but the king is the overall charge. So same way, the mukhya prana, the main prana, which is the enlivening principle, divides into 5. So 5 different entities who are in charge of 5 different functions. So prana is the intake, not only intake by mouth, but intake through the breath, intake through the eyes, through the ears. So all our intakes through the nose, all that is prana. Apana is excretion, not only the excretion of the waste matter from below, but also the breath. We intake and exhale, so that excretion, sneezing, all those. So that is all apana. Then samana is the digestive function. So between the apana and the prana and the apana, there is samana, which digests the food. So whatever food we take in gets digested, and that function is performed by samana. Then he talks about vyana, and vyana we had talked about is the subtle energy channels. They are not arteries, veins, or nerves, but they are subtle energy channels. And they are, how are they formed? So there is the Sushumna Nadi, the main, and which divides into 101. And then each of those 101 divides into 100. So that makes 10,100. Now those 10,100 divide into 72,000 each. So 72 crores, 72 lakhs. That is 727 million channels, energy channels, which sustain all the 4 billion cells. It's much more than the arteries, nerves, veins, all combined, put together. So they nourish each part of the body. So they take nutrition from the samana and distribute it to all the different parts of the body. And then udana becomes active. One, it can be active with sneezing or vomiting when there is negative function. But the main function of udana is at the time of death, when it takes the subtle body and goes, depending on what karmas we have done. It can go out through the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, or even the lower apertures of the body, depending on the karmas. And of course, the yogis who are realized, it goes out through this. And the realized masters do not go anywhere. They just merge with the totality, which we had seen in Prasnopanishad. But you and I, when we leave this body, based on our karmas, if we have done good karmas, we will spend more time in heaven. If we have done bad karmas, in the lower worlds. And if they are equal, then you will neither spend time in heaven or hell. You will immediately take another birth. But even eventually, if once our other karmas are exhausted, then we continue our birth as humans or could be as lower species. And so that is how, and it is said that besides Sushumna, there are two main nadis called Ida and Pingala. So Ida and Pingala. Ida is on the right side and represents the introvert tendencies, and Pingala is on the left side and represents extrovert tendencies. So that's how the rishis knew all that. And it is said, it ends, the third query ends with the point that what sustains the outer world, that is Aditya. The sun is the one that sustains the outer world. What sustains the inner world? And they talked about gravitation. So this is thousands of years before Newton. They said the force of gravitation holds everything in place, and that sustains the inner world. So that's why we are balanced. If only the outer world was active, we would be flown away. If only the inner lower world was active, we would collapse on the ground.
Like on the moon, there is no
gravity. Like on the moon, there is no gravity, so people can float or in space. So the earth balances, the earth with its gravitational pulls balances the pull of the sun, and the rishis knew that. And they also said that one who knows the essence of this particular knowledge attains immortality. Immortality does not mean that he will never die, but that he will or she will realize their immortal nature, that I am immortal. And now, today we will start the fourth query. Anybody has any questions on these three, or is pretty clear? Okay, so we'll start. So we'll start. Jagrati, you want to repeat query number 4? You have it? It's on page 148 if you have the new book.
I have.
Okay. Athahenam Sauryayani Gargyah Papracha Bhagwan etasmin purushe
Bhagavante tasmin purushe
Kani swapanti Kanyasmid jagrati
karyasmi jagrati
Katar esha devaha
katar esha devaha
Swapnan pashyati
sapnan pashyati
Kashyaitat sukham
kashyetat sukham
Bhavati
bhavati
Kasminnu sarve
kasminnu sarve
Sampratisthita Sampratisthita Bhavanti
bhavantiti.
Get together. You can please mute. Atha hainam sauryayani Gargyah papracha Bhagwan etasmin purushe Kani swapanti Kanyasmin jagrati Katara esha devaha Swapnan pashyati Kasyaitat sukham bhavati Kasminnu sarve Sampratisthita bhavantiti. So now the question is about the three states. As Gurudev in his commentary says that all modern science and philosophy and all, they only deal with the waking state. At the most, Freud had talked a little bit about the dream state, but otherwise all the modern sciences, chemistry, biology, they only deal with the waking state. And most of the knowledge is only of the waking state. Vedanta is the only science that deals with all three. Why all three? We'll talk about that. Why the deep sleep is also given equal importance to the waking and the dream. So atha means now, the next topic. He enam, indeed enam. Who asked? Sauryayani Gargyaha Papracha. Papracha means asked. Who asked? Sauryayani means he is the grandson of Surya Bhagwan. So he belongs to that solar dynasty and of the clan of Gargya Rishi. So his name is not given, but he is the grandson of Surya Bhagwan and he belongs to the Gargya clan. So he asked Bhagwan, he asked the teacher very politely, "Oh Lord, E tasmin purushe, in this being, purusha here means does not only mean male, but in this individual, kani swapanti, who sleeps. Swapanti, some people interpret as sleep, some people interpret as dream in different bhashyas, but we will take it as sleep because that's what Gurudev uses. So Shankaracharya ji says dream, but we'll take sleep. So who sleeps? Kani asmin jagrati, and asmin, in this purusha, kani jagrati, who is the one that stays awake. So who sleeps? Who stays awake. Here means plural, not only individual. Who sleep and who stay awake. Then katara esha devaha. So which devaha? Which deva here means the Lord within the illumining factor. Deva comes from div, means to illumine. So katara esha devaha swapnan pashyati, sees the dream. Kasya etat sukham bhavati. Kasya means of who? That's the sixth case. Kasya etat sukham bhavati. Who is the one that enjoys the bliss of deep sleep? Because deep sleep, we know everybody likes. Nobody says I don't like deep sleep. Waking, we may have problems. Dream, you may have sometimes good and bad dreams. But deep sleep is the same for all, whether it's a king or a beggar, or whether it's a scholar or an ignorant person, a dog, cat, everybody enjoys deep sleep. So he says, Kasya etat sukham bhavati, the bliss of dreams, of deep sleep, who enjoys? And kasmin nu, and this is the most important part of the question, kasmin nu, who is the one in whom sarve sampratisthita bhavanti iti. In this way, kasmin, in whom sarve sampratisthita, all of these factors, what are they established in? The waking state, the dream state, the deep sleep state, where do they abide? Where do they stay? Sampratisthita means where are they established? That I would like to know. And so where they abide is, as our rishis have said, there is the fourth state called Turiya. The waking, dream, and deep sleep originate from the Turiya state, the state of realization or consciousness, and merge back into it. So the example they give is like Sudiptat Pavakat, just as in Mundak Upanishad it is said, just as when there is a fire, from fire emerge all the rays of light, these little sparks, and then they merge back. So same way, you and I all have come from that consciousness. So why are the three states important? Because the waking and the dream, first of all, the ego is still there. I, the knower, is still there. In waking, it is I know. In the dream, it is confused, but it is still there. So if only those two were there, then we would think ego alone is functioning. But in the deep sleep, neither the waker is there, nor the dreamer is there. Yet I remember my deep sleep. I don't remember that what happened, but I remember I slept well. So a person will wake up in the morning, I had a great sleep. Another one says, I didn't sleep well at all. I was so disturbed. So who remembers the bliss of deep sleep? Talking about deep sleep, there was this librarian who was asleep, and in the middle of the night, she gets a phone call. And the There's a man on the line. He says, is this the librarian? She says, yes. But why are you calling me in the middle of the night? He says, no, I want to know what time the library will open. She says, what? You want to know what time the library will open? Is that a question to ask? It won't open till 9 a.m. He said, 9 a.m.? She says, yeah, it won't open till 9 a.m. and you cannot get in before 9 a.m. She's very irritated. You cannot get in before 9 a.m. He says, who's talking about getting in? I'm talking about getting out. so, so, so her bliss of deep sleep was interrupted because this guy is stuck all night in the library. Anyway, so the teacher wants to know that where do these three states stay? And as Gurudev says, not only I remember the previous day's events, I remember my dream and I remember the bliss of deep sleep. And the rememberer and the knower has to be the same. I cannot remember Satish Bhai's, events like what happened last night or what he did yesterday. So the knower and the rememberer has to be the same. I cannot know somebody else's activity. So that's why there has to be one consciousness. And as we said, the deep sleep answers the question better than waking and dream. And also the Mandukya and other Upanishads tell us that waking and dream are both misapprehension. Because of non-apprehension of reality, I have misapprehension of that this world is real. Actually, this world is nothing but Brahman. All the names and forms are illusory projections upon it, but we don't see Brahman. That's why we think the world is real. But for a realized master who sees Brahman all the time, he knows that this world is an illusion. Like Vivekananda asks Ramakrishna Paramhans, have you seen God? And he said, I see God more clearly than I see you. So that was the clarity of these great Mahatmas, where they see Brahman all the time, and for them, the world is an appearance. And what they are saying is the first three questions were about Apara Vidya. Apara means the lower Vidya. And the lower Vidya includes all knowledge, not only the physics, chemistry, science, but even the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Rama and Mahabharata, all are Apara Vidya. Lower in the sense that it is something that is conveyed by mouth, by the teacher, and listened by the ears and stays in the mind. So anything that can be known through the senses or through the mind, Vak, Mana, Gochara, is Apara Vidya. The Paravidya, the knowledge of Brahman, is not known by speech, not known by mind. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Upanishad says the speech cannot describe it, mind cannot know it. He said, then why are we sitting and studying this Upanishad if the Upanishad cannot describe it? Because Upanishad is the closest way to indicate the truth. The rishis have indicated that we have known this truth. If you follow this path that I am indicating, you will also know that. So it is like a roadmap for us to follow. And then people say you should do sadhanas, you should do meditation, do japa, do prayer, so they say, will they produce Brahman? No, they will not produce Brahman because Brahman is already there. Brahman is sadhya. Sadhana will not produce sadhya because sadhya is always there. Brahman is always there. Then the purpose of doing all these sadhanas is to purify the mind. And then in a pure mind, which is free of all the raga, dvesha, anger, jealousy, then this knowledge of the teacher stays. So that is the purpose of sadhanas. And it says, na karmana, na prajaya, we always chant, tyage naike amritatvaman. So neither by action, nor by praja, nor by anybody else, nor by dhana, you can get this highest truth, only by tyaga, renunciation. So they say you have to renounce this world. The importance we give to the world has to be reduced, and importance has to be transferred to Brahman, that alone is my goal. In this life, I want to know God, I want to reach Him. So we have to slowly reduce our dependence on the world, and then you will realize the truth. And they say, Shankaracharya ji in his bhashya on this particular mantra says that this truth is Shivam Shantam Aksharam. Shivam means all auspicious. Shantam does not mean peacefulness, it means peace. Because there can be peacefulness, there can be agitation. See, in our life, sometime I'm peaceful, sometime I'm agitated. But the peace is the one that passeth all understanding, as Jesus says. That peace is beyond peacefulness and agitation and is always present. See, my mind may be sometime agitated, sometime peaceful, but my true nature is ever Shantam. And it is Aksharam, it is indestructible, cannot be modified. That's why creation is not possible. And it is timeless, beyond time. And then the purpose of knowing this knowledge is to know who am I, not necessary to know who the world is and who the creator is, why the world was created, when did the first being start. We don't need to know all that. That's not important. Most important is who am I? And that's why the student asks, what is it that is the substratum of all of them? And the example that Shankaracharya ji gives, like the river, just as all rivers merge into the ocean, so similarly, and also from the ocean, the water comes, becomes cloud, becomes rain, and merges back. So you and I have come from that ocean. They say, "Tu pyar ka sagar hai." You are that ocean of bliss, ocean of love, compassion. We have come from you, and we will merge back into you. So here he has started the answer. Here is the question. Actually, we have only covered the question so far, the student's question. Now we will see the answer only to the first question as to who sleeps, who stays awake, and who sustains, and all of those we'll do next week. Varsha Ben, you have the second one? The second mantra?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tasmai sahovacha
Tasmai sahovacha
yatha gargya
yatha gargya
marichayo
marichayo
arkasyastam
arkyashyastam
gachatah
gachatah
sarva etasmin
sarva etasmin
tejo mandala
tejo mandala
eki bhavanti
eki bhavanti
ta punah punah
ta punah punah
udayata
dayata
pracharantyevam
pracyanta evam
havai
have
tatsarvam
tatsarvam
pare deve
pare deve
manasyeki bhavati
manasyeki bhavati
tena tarhesha
tena tarhesha
purushona
purushona
shrunoti
shrunoti
na pashyati
na pashyati
na jigrati
na jigrati
na rasayate
na rashayate
na sprishate
na sprishate
na bhivaddate
na bhivadate
na datte
na datte
na nandayate
na nandayate
na visrujate
na visrujate
neyayate
neyayate
swapiti iti
swapiti
achakshate.
achakshate.
Together, tasmai sahovacha yatha gargya marichayoraskyastam gacchataha sarva etasmin tejo mandal eki bhavanti ta punah punah punarudayataha pracharantyevamhavai tat sarvam pare deve manasyeki bhavati tena tarhesha purusho na shrunoti na pashyati na jigrati na rasayate na sprishate na bhivadate na datte na nandayate na visrijate neyayate swapiti ityachakshate. So beautiful description of sleep. Gurudev says this is the most correct, beautiful description of sleep given to us by the Rishi Pippalada. So Tasmai, to that student, Sa, her, he indeed spoke. He spoke very clearly to him. And he's answering these questions. So today we'll only see the answer to the first question as to who sleeps. So he says, O Gargya, O the one who belongs to the clan of Garga Rishi, Yatha Marichayo Arkaha. So Marichayo of the sun, Yatha, just as Arkayaha means the rays, Asya, of this sun, the rays, Astam Gachata, when the sun sets, Astam Gachata, when it sets, Sarva etasmin tejo mandal eki bhavanti. So all of those rays, etasmin, in that sun, in that tejo mandal, in that brilliant sphere of the sun, eki bhavanti, they all become one. They all merge into that, as we had last in the previous also, he says river. So here in the sun, he gives the example, in the sun, all the rays merge back into the sun. Ta punah punah, then again and again, udayataha, when it rises, pracharanti evam, and then they spread out. So as we see, when the sun sets, it is as though all the rays merge into the sun, but when the sun rises, the rays come out. So we'll answer the question when we know there is no sunrise or sunset. Why is the Rishi saying that? So pracharanti evam havai. Indeed, all of them then go out in the morning. That, and in the same way, that sarvam pare, all these sense organs of action, the 10, 5 sense organs, 5 organs of action, pare deve, in that deva. Here deva is the mind, manaha, in that mind is the lord of the sense organs and organs of action. We'll talk about that. Eki bhavati, all the 10 become one, they merge into the mind. Tena tarhi, that's why in Esha Purusha, this individual, then he na shrunoti, he does not hear, na pashyati, he does not see, na jigrati, he does not smell, na rasayate, he does not taste, na sprishate, he does not touch, he cannot feel anything, na bhi vaddate, he does not speak, na datte, he does not use his hands to give anything, na anandayate, he does not enjoy. So enjoy can be from the sense objects, the senses, or it can be the mind. Here he is talking about the sense organs, like when I touch something soft, I enjoy, or when I taste something good, I enjoy. So the organs of enjoyment are also sleeping. That's why he does not have any. Then na visrijate, neither can he give away to anybody. Na eyayate, nor does he carry. He cannot take anything. Swapiti iti achakshate, that is said to be asleep. So in sleep, none of these are active. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, walking, talking, thinking. Thinking he has not mentioned, will be mentioned later. Enjoying, all that is all gone. So why do they give the example of the sun? Actually, the rishis already knew that there is no sunrise, there is no sunset. In the first query in the sixth mantra itself, the rishi says very clearly, the sun is there, and as the earth comes in front of the sun, different parts get illumined. So the rishis already knew that there is no sunrise, there is no sunset, the sun does not move, which Galileo and Copernicus found in the 16th and 17th century, that the earth revolves around the sun and the sun is stationary. And actually one of them was poisoned because the Catholic Church didn't want them to say that the earth is not the center of the universe. So but the rishis already knew that the sun is the center and everything revolves. And repeatedly it has been said in our scriptures. But here, for our benefit, the rishi is giving an example, just as the example of the river is given. So the sun, as though, the rays come out in the morning and then as though they merge in the evening. So it is just an analogy. And that's why it is called Sandhi Kal. That's the very auspicious time when the sun is rising or when the sun is setting. That's when we do the Gayatri mantra and do all the rituals. So these are the auspicious times when the sunrise and the sunset and all the rays. Now they say merge into the mind. So the eyes merge into the mind, the ears merge into the mind, the nose merge. Why don't you say eyes merge into the eyes? The person cannot see. Ears merge into ear. Why do you have to bring a factor of mind? And that's why he says Mana is the Deva, is the God. Why the mind is mentioned? Because as we see, the mind is all important. Even when I'm awake, say now I am speaking, and maybe some of you are not here. Maybe your mind is somewhere else or somebody is not paying attention. Then what happens? Even the words are coming into the ear, but you can't hear them. So if the mind is, suppose you're thinking about a family member, then no matter how much Upanishad we are talking, nothing will go inside. So the mind controls all the organs. Like I'm looking and my mind is somewhere else and somebody passes by, I don't see them. So that's what they say. My attention was somewhere, number one. Number two, in deep sleep, also the mind controls. How does the mind control the sense organs and organs of action? Because in deep sleep, we don't do anything. Otherwise, if the eyes were independent and they could go back into the eyes, then in deep sleep, the mind is sleeping. The eyes can get up and start seeing, or ears can get up and start hearing. It doesn't happen. So the fact that the eyes do not start seeing on their own, ears do not, of course, but some people talk in their sleep, but it doesn't make sense, what they blabber, because the mind is not there. So that's why they say the mind is the one that is controlling the eyes, the ears, everything is controlled, all the 10 senses. And why is it called Deva? Because Dyotanath iti Deva, because it illumines. The mind is the illumining factor of the senses, and through that, all the 5 elements, the space, air, fire, water, earth are all illumined. And it's not that the rays disappear, but from unmanifest, they become manifest, and then from manifest again become unmanifest. That's why even Bhagavan says in the Bhagavad Gita that all of us were unmanifest, we became manifest, and then again unmanifest. Then what is the reason to grieve? So similarly, you and I were unmanifest first, we manifested, and then will become unmanifest again. So same way, the senses, they do not perish, but they merge into the mind, become unmanifest, and then manifest again in the morning. That's why Gurudev says in the morning, a saint will become again a saint, a robber will become a robber, a politician will become a politician, lawyer will become lawyer. So all of them will resume. So their mind and intellect, which has become unmanifest, becomes manifest. And they say it also happens in pralaya. And just as in deep sleep, we go to sleep and we wake up. So pralaya is a long sleep of 4 billion plus years, several billion years. where this whole universe, the gross bodies all get destroyed in that, but the subtle bodies do not get destroyed. They go into unmanifest state, and then we stay for billions of years. That's why they say better to realize now, otherwise pralaya aa jayegi, and then we have to stay billions of years in that unmanifest state and then again continue the journey. So that's why the Upanishads say that in this life itself, you come to realize the truth, and nothing can be more clear than what the Upanishads have said. So if we have heard the Upanishads and we have understood them, then not to sincerely try for realization is a wasted life. That's what they say. In that case, your life will be a great waste. The rishis tell us that this alone is the purpose. It is the goal of life. So here Rishi has talked about what sleeps. So he has answered the question as to who are the factors that sleep. All the sense organs, all the organs of action, none of them are active at the time of sleep, and they all merge into the mind. Now, next week, actually, the topic takes a very major turn, because it's, even though he's talking about who nourishes and who dreams and all, but they have introduced a topic of rituals. You know, in the olden days, they used to light certain fires in the house, and the fires had to be lit. They have a lot of technical factors are there in the next few mantras about these different fires. And we'll talk about that next week. We have 10 minutes. If anybody has any questions, any comments, please feel free to share them. Thank you. It's a beautiful Upanishad. I am learning so much from, all this, lot of anatomy, physiology, everything is covered. Science, creation, gravitation, all of that is covered so beautifully in this Upanishad. It's a very, very powerful one. So thank you very much. Anybody has any questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead, Lata.
So in that first sloka I was reading, the description that is given, he says, then Gargya, the grandson of Surya, questioned him, "O Bhagavan, who are they that sleep in men?" When that question is asked, who are they? What is it referring to?
Yeah, what are the factors? What are they, the factors that go to sleep? Because in an individual, there are many aspects. There is the sense organs, there is the organs of action, there is the mana, buddhi, chit, ahankar, there is the vasanas, so there are, and then there is a digestive system and circulatory system and, vyana and all. He had heard all those explanations, samana, vyana. So does the vyana also go to sleep? Samana also? No. Samana continues to digest. The vyana continues, even the apana, the excretion continues, intake continues. So out of the things that you have mentioned so far, who is it that goes to sleep and who is it that stays awake and sustains this body? Who is it that sees the dream? See, in the dream, you don't need glasses. Right? You may be blind completely without such thick glasses. I can't see anything. But when I go to sleep at night, I don't say, wait, let me put on my glasses so I may see the dream. You don't need to. You see the dream very clearly. You see yourself. Correct. And then you see others. So who is it that is seeing the sleep? Who is it that is, dreaming? Who is the one that enjoys the bliss of deep, deep sleep? And then who is the one in which all are sustained? So all different factors. Who enjoys the bliss of deep sleep? Who sees the dream? Who goes to sleep? And who sustains the body when the body is asleep? See, when we are asleep, we don't worry about, if I don't breathe, then I will die. No, somebody is continuing to breathe for us. The heart is continuing to pump, the circulation, the digestion, excretion, everything is going on. So who is it that is doing all those? And ultimately, where is this sustained? Where is this maintained? So what is the substratum of all that? So those are the 5
So
questions.
the second answers this question that 10 sense organs, perception and action are going into mind, but that's not the answer yet.
That's
right?
the answer to the first one. That's the one who sleeps. Once all the
Okay.
sense organs and organ of action have gone
Okay.
into the mind,
Okay.
then that individual neither hears, nor tastes, nor smell, nor
Okay.
touch.
So that's what I asked you. Who are they that sleep in man? And that's what you just answered, that these 10 sense organs and actions
Yes.
are sleeping and they are going in the mind.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's the first question you just answered.
Right.
And we'll continue the rest of it
Right.
in the
Yeah,
next sloka.
The next
Okay.
one we'll talk about who
Eh,
sustains the body in sleep.
Okay.
What
It's
is
a
it?
very confusing query to start with.
I know. And the next one is even worse. When he talks about the various fires, it is even harder. I'll try to make it. I hope I was able to make it understandable today.
It means
So
mind
is it mind sleeping?
No, the mind is not sleeping. In the mind, the others are going into it.
it means mind is always
In the deep sleep,
awake.
the mind goes to sleep. That's why Shankaracharya ji calls the first query as dream. In Shankar Bhashya, it is said to be dream. So mind is actually not sleeping. Mind is going into a dream state. Gurudev calls it deep sleep, calls it sleep. But Shankaracharya ji in Shankar Bhashya calls Sushupti as dream state.
Yeah, Sushupti is a dream.
So actually mind only goes to sleep in deep sleep. In the dream state, it is not sleeping. So we are not yet talking about deep sleep.
This was a dream.
So
state.
mind
This was a
sleeps
dream
in
state.
deep
According to
sleep.
Shankar Bhashya, it is the dream state. Gurudev uses sleep. So there's a slight difference between Puja
There
Gurudev
is a
and
sleep
Shankar.
or deep sleep, maybe.
Sleep or deep sleep. In sleep you dream, but it's not deep sleep. It is just sleep where you are still dreaming. You are sleeping, but you are dreaming. But the mind is very active in dream.
Exactly.
Auntie, you had a question?
No, it means mind is, even in deep sleep, is active.
In a way it is, because all the senses are still functioning. See, even in deep sleep, your digestive system is going on, the circulatory system. So the controlling factor is still there. I may not know it, but the fact is that all the activities are going on. You can call it the autonomic nervous system, what they call in medicine, that the autonomic nervous system, which is not dependent on the cerebrum, but it is the automatic, and that seems to be continuing to function. So that is how the rishis are describing it, that there is one part of the personality that is in the waking state, that is able to, I can decide where to put my hand, what to put in my mouth. But in the dream, I am just reproducing those thoughts. The mind is still active. And in the deep sleep, even the mind goes to sleep. But there is something which is continuing my autonomic functions, the digestions and so on. Anything else, Auntie, you would like to add?
Oh, will that be, it means prana. Prana will be active, rest
Yes.
everything will be asleep.
Yes. The prana, apana, samana, vyana, udana. Yes, all 5 remain active. Yes.
Okay.
And they are also subtler. Prana, then apana, then samana, vyana, they become from gross to subtle. So similarly, the world, there is the gross world, then there is the world of thoughts, emotions, vasanas. It becomes subtler and ultimately goes to the turiya state, or the state of consciousness.
Yeah, so Anil, I have a question. Okay, when you are in a deep sleep, your mind goes to sleep. But in other states, a lot of people don't have trouble sleeping and all that stuff.
Right.
So when they feel like they are awake, but yet they are not dreaming because it's not dream going on. But yet they feel like They are awake, but yet they are sleeping. So what is that then?
No, they are lying down, but they are awake. They are lying down, they are trying to sleep, but they are still awake. You know, their
But if
thoughts are
somebody
still running,
passes
they're
by or
remembering.
there is
They,
some
they may
noise,
not be, I'm sorry, go ahead. What's the
if
question?
somebody passes by or there is some noise, they don't hear that. So there is a stage like you are
Right.
still aware but not aware. I don't know.
Yeah, so there are stages, you know, where the person may be partially asleep, but generally they will know, you know, they may not hear because their attention may be on the mind. They're trying to sleep
Mhm.
and their eyes are closed and, you know, so on. But yeah, there are stages, you know, there is deep sleep, then there is light sleep, you know, the REM sleep and all they talk about, the science talks about. But the fact that if they are not able to sleep, either you can be awake or you can be asleep. You cannot be both. Like
Right.
if you come and ask a person, are you awake? He cannot answer that question because
Right.
if he says, I'm awake, then he's, or if you say, are you asleep? He cannot say yes or he cannot say no. If he says yes, that means it is wrong. If he says no, that means he's not asleep. So like that.
Okay.
So either you are awake or you are asleep. In sleep, there could be stages, you know, where you're dreaming or you are in deep sleep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Satish bhai, anything? 1 minute we have. You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, this is very potent verse actually, with all the physiological and
Right.
and scientific information in there,
Yes.
and it requires real concentration. I think
Right.
you have to read it over and over again to
Right.
grasp
Right.
the.
And this, yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean it's amazing that how many years ago this knowledge
Right.
was realized. It's just you cannot even fathom that part.
Absolutely.
It's
Right.
fascinating.
Right.
Yes,
And not to scare you, but the subsequent mantras are even more complicated.
I know. I
I
was
read it.
expecting that. Yeah.
Yeah, because they are talking about the various factors that maintain and about the
Yes.
various fires. It's very technical, but a lot of things
Yes.
I didn't know. I didn't know about all these different fires that the
Right.
householders are maintaining and what is the purpose of each fire. So very,
Right.
very nice Upanishad.
Yeah,
Gives a lot of
it's
new
very
knowledge.
unlike any other Upanishad.
Right.
This yes. It's
Absolutely.
simply amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. So
Thank
we'll
you.
close. We'll do the closing prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.